lightning, throw thunder in jail. That's bad. Only last week, I murdered a rock, injured a stone, hospitalized a brick. I'm so mean, I make medicine sick.
What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some more news concerning Andy the Destroyer Ruiz. Volume 2. This is what I was talking about, okay? Volume 1 was Andy Ruiz claiming that Tyson Fury was scared of him and everybody else. Okay, in this video, I want to express and talk about everybody else, right? Everybody else that Andy Ruiz claimed that was afraid of him. Let's talk about them for a minute, okay? Who else could have been talking about? Anthony Joshua, trilogy, right? That could have happened last year since he wasn't a champ, you know what I mean? And Andy is always talking Anthony, you know, he probably says that shit in his sleep. Anthony, trilogy. He probably says that shit in his sleep. Deontay Wilder, another person, you know, and of course those guys went back and forth with negotiations, and Ruiz claimed that he was only getting the same amount of money that he got fighting Luis Ortiz. And let's talk about that for a minute. Even if that was true, I think Andy should realize something. Andy is not a star, okay? Andy is a one-hit wonder. Andy is the first former Mexican heavyweight champion ever in history, okay? But he didn't bring anything else. He didn't show his worth after he defeated the unified champion in 19. He got that shit snatched from him after gaining massive amounts of weight, which showed very little eagerness to the sport, and it showed that he really didn't care because I think in his mind, he already won, which in essence he did compared to where he was. However, he didn't show anything else since then, past that point. What Andy did was, Andy got that money and Andy ran. Okay, that's what he did. Because the 2020 comes along, and we had COVID introduced. But before COVID, he was in negotiations with Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte in 2020, this was pre-Dillian Whyte got knocked out cold by Povetkin, right? That's that pre-KO Povetkin fight. You know, this guy wanted to fight anyone. That guy, Dillian Whyte, was the can man, and everybody could have got it. And, you know, and Anthony was, you know, he had won his belts back, and Andy claimed, now this is where he started slipping. Andy claimed that the money that Eddie offered him wasn't real. You know what I mean? And like, when he said that, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. You just dealt with this man in Saudi Arabia. You just twice. You dealt with this man in Americas, where you got the most money you've ever got in your life, which is 6 or 7 mil. Okay, for fighting Anthony Joshua. You beat Anthony Joshua. Then you have to deal with Eddie Hearn again. And at one point, what makes him think, or what made him thought that he wouldn't have got any money from Eddie? You know what I mean? It's not like they had issues with money on the grounds of he didn't get paid. No, he got paid. He got paid, he got laid, and then he ran away and he stayed. Bars. That's what happened to Andy Ruiz. And then the negotiations were, they were happening, and, you know, when they offered him that money, he said it wasn't real. That's when I first started to doubt, look at kind of side-eye Andy, because I'm like, Andy, what are you doing? You have an opportunity to fight at that time, possibly the number 2 heavyweight at Matchroom, you know, with Eddie Hearn's guys. So you beat the first one. What could you do with the second one? Because Anthony, one of his best wins at the time was Klitschko and Dillian Whyte. Povetkin, right? So, but Dillian Whyte was a guy that beat a lot of good fighters. You see what I mean? I.e. Oscar Rivas, i.e. Joseph Parker. You know what I mean? So he did a lot in the sport up to that point. So why wouldn't you fight him? You know what I mean? And And that, that back and forth, then it got messy. Then it started getting kind of amateurish and immature because they start going back and forth on social media, and nothing really happened, and he was like, oh, that ain't real, it's bull, whatever. Then over on his side of the pond, Andy Ruiz was offered a fight against Luis Ortiz. Andy turned that shit down quickly. So what told me he was more than likely he was afraid to fight Dillian White too, but he was definitely afraid to fight Luis Ortiz. So he knew he did not have anywhere to run. He couldn't say the money wasn't real because the structure from PBC was pay-per-view. So there's no way out of that. You're getting whatever the precedes of what the fight does based on the sales of pay-per-view, along with some type of base pay, but you're getting your money on pay-per-view. That's how Heyman's going to do it. That's how he did it. Okay, so after that, I was like, okay, Andy, you're tripping. Then he didn't fight none in 2020. Then he comes in 2021 and people thinking, okay, you're going to fight someone now? No. He fights Chris Arreola. Not saying Chris Arreola is a nobody. Okay, hold on. What I'm saying is he picked the person that he thought that he could beat based on the age and stats and everything else. He picked the safest fight. However, he gets his ass dropped because Chris Arreola comes in pretty good shape. In fact, the 40-year-old Chris Arreola at the time had a life change. And it was good for him. You know what I mean? And the fight was a lot closer than they made it. And that's how you knew the fix was in for Andy. So they were still kind of protecting Andy to see what Andy was going to do, right? So he beats Chris Arreola. And then another year goes by. And then another year and 4 months, he fights then Luis Ortiz. After Luis Ortiz was exposed to not have a chin. Okay, so that's what you dealt with Andy Ruiz. You know what I mean? And he hasn't done shit since 2022. 2023, he had negotiations with Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, and really nobody else. And the question you ask yourself is why? Why didn't you start looking for other opponents in a whole fucking calendar year? Now, I know Amazon or PBC or whatever had their own issues. You know what I mean? But it just shows you that Andy and his father didn't really have their shit together. And I think they still didn't really care because I think Andy does have a little money left. He might have $1 million or $2 million left from the money that he spent because that money can go fast within 5 years. I hope he has more. But if he does have more, it would reflect his non-eagerness to fight anybody. Yeah, it's good to associate your name with another boxer that you claim that you want to fight, but if somehow this fight never gets done or these fights never get done, you're creating a pattern of consistency of not fighting people. Okay, and the people you fight are either old or worn out, you know what I mean, or shot, and that's what you're dealing with Andy, and that's all he showed us, honestly, since 2019. Okay, so this volume 2 is to expose Andy for what he really is. Andy is a guy that got fed well, that got paid. He's a one-hit wonder. One hit wonder turned into 2 hits. Had a really good year in 2019. He's never really been the same. However, the money that he got from fighting Luis Ortiz in 2022, when they were having problems, okay, he should have known then that I need to get somewhere to fight someone somewhere else, because the $1 million that he received from fighting Luis Ortiz, and Luis Ortiz, I think, received like $500,000. Okay, that money that he was offered should have woke him up, and it didn't. You know what I mean? That's why I'm convinced that Andy Ruiz still wants some more money on top of asking for more, or allegedly asking for more money from Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, because he wanted more money because either he's going broke or he's getting desperate because, he needs more money in the future because he knows, hey, if I don't fight for another year, I'm going to run out of money. So the IVs and the weed and the booze and the broads and whatever he has going, I think will come to a screeching halt. Because when that money stops, everything else is going to stop too, unfortunately, for Andy Ruiz. So he needs to fight Jarrell Miller and make a splash. But you guys tell me again what you think of Andy Ruiz claiming that Tyson Fury was a lie and it was all a lie, and he's revealing it after a whole calendar year. But anyway, you guys, please subscribe, and you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.